Today I want to talk to you about iron deficiency and ways that you can improve your iron levels, because improving your iron levels is likely to improve your life. You'll have better energy, clearer mind, and just be warmer overall, which we all need because winter is cold. In Chinese medicine, we attribute cold hands and feet often to blood deficiency, which is akin to iron deficiency, but not quite the same thing all the time. Now, I personally have struggled with low iron levels most of my adult life. I was a vegetarian vegan for a very long time, and I still try and avoid meat as much as I can, but I eat small quantities and supplements containing animal products as what I refer to as kind of medicinal meat. Now, I've managed to get my iron levels back to normal for the first time. I literally just got my iron results back the other day, and I have a ferritin level score of 60, which, to give you a clue, they've usually been between about 10 and 15, which is severely deficient. So when they get below 30, you're dealing with iron deficiency. And for some people who also have a low hemoglobin, then that is then termed iron deficiency anemia. And this becomes a problem for functioning and for getting out of bed in the morning and for feeling like clear in your head. So if you're feeling these sort of feelings, like you're feeling fatigued and foggy headed, then it is worth getting an iron test done at your doctor and having a look at those levels. And if you are deficient, there are different ways that you can improve those scores. Now, it's not as simple as just taking a pill, just taking an iron supplement. It's not necessarily going to cut it for most people. And I know that for sure as someone who's been trying that over the years. But coming from a background of Chinese medicine and nutrition, I've started to take more of my own advice lately. I've worked on my digestive system because you do need to have a functional absorption in the gut to actually absorb nutrients. Now, this is one of the biggest reasons that people have low iron levels. They could be eating enough iron, but not absorbing it properly. There are other things too. So there are different forms of iron. There is a form called heme iron, which comes from animal products only. And then there's a form called non-heme, which is from other sources. Now, heme iron is absorbed more readily than non-heme, unfortunately. But non-heme can be absorbed better when it's taken with vitamin C. Now, it's interesting. I've actually found research studies that suggest that non-heme iron is absorbed better when you have a small glass of alcohol with your meal. Now, I'm not encouraging anyone overdoes this. And if you have alcohol, make sure it's not red wine, because red wine contains tannins and that blocks the absorption of iron. But if you're a vegetarian, perhaps you could have a little nib of something while you're having your meal from time to time, especially if you're eating products that include things like chickpeas or lentils or I'm trying to think other things, apricots, things that are naturally high in iron of a non-heme variety. Now, if you're eating animal-based products, you need to be sure that you're not combining those products with things like green leafy vegetables that are high in oxalic acid and things that are going to block iron absorption. Other things like tea and coffee, red wine, these need to be taken at least an hour, preferably longer, away from your meal. So if you're the sort of person that eats a steak with a glass of red wine and then wonders why your iron levels are not kind of rising, you're not really making the best use of that if you're eating medicinally. So as much as I would like a red wine with my meat, I would prefer to not, because I'm doing it only for the medicinal purposes. So it's what you're eating. It's also what you're eating with what you're eating. So if you're eating foods that block iron absorption with iron-containing foods, then you're doing a disservice to your iron levels. It's the absorption in the gut. So some people have gastrointestinal problems. They could have things like SIBO or Crohn's disease or other digestive problems that are interfering with the absorption in the gut. So some of the things I'll recommend, and these are best done in collaboration with a healthcare practitioner, but there are certain enzymes that you can take if you have low stomach acid, because some people The problem with the absorption is that they don't have enough acid to actually break down the proteins or the building blocks there and absorb that product. So the meat goes in, and as very dense food, your body is not able to actually extract properly. So for some people, simply having something like that will actually improve your body's ability to actually digest and absorb. So that could solve the problem for some people. When they're having a high protein containing meal, they're having the right type of enzymes to support the hydrochloric acid in the stomach. Now, for other people, they will benefit from probiotics, things that can actually help feed the good bacteria in the gut. So we're dealing with the gut as a core way to support the body in its production of iron. So that's a slightly different way to look at it. Now, the other thing to consider, if you are a woman and say with a very low iron intake with your diet, or even if you have a pretty reasonable diet, but you have very heavy periods, you need to look at the balance and think, okay, I'm losing this much blood. And apparently the average amount of blood to lose is about I think it's like 2.5 shot glasses of blood per menstrual cycle, which doesn't sound like a lot. So if you think about your menstrual cycle, if you're a woman listening to this, and you think that yours is heavier than that, then you're losing a lot of blood. Now, for your body to actually produce enough blood to kind of balance that out might be very difficult. So you really have to double down on this type of stuff to get the benefit. Now, that's when you might benefit from an iron supplement. Now, there are certain types of iron that are more readily absorbed and that are not as hard on the gut as others. Some of them really just lead to constipation and irritate the gut. So, in working with someone who can help you with this, so finding a good nutritionist or healthcare practitioner, I can do online consultations with people. If anyone wants to work with me on this, just hit me up. But yeah, picking the right iron supplement for your needs and having it with something like a good quality vitamin C from a whole food source. Okay, something like a product called Camu Camu. It's a natural plant-based source of vitamin C. Having that with your iron supplement is great. Now, I actually don't take iron supplements anymore. I take beef liver. Now, I'm sorry to all the vegetarians out there. As a former vegetarian, I never thought that I would, but I look at this as a medicinal meat product and I take it with Camu Camu, like a natural vitamin C. It's incredibly high in heme iron, B12, and it's really good, full of nutrients. So if you're looking for something and you're willing to take something like that, I would encourage people with low iron levels to consider a good quality beef liver product. And the final thing I would like to say about diet is that in Chinese medicine, we are very much about the encouraging the digestion to be as supported as possible. And this is done by the types of food and the cooking method of food being slow and warm. So we encourage people to eat things like congee, which is like a slow cooked rice dish, or soups and stews, things that have a high water content, but also have a lot of time for things to be broken down. So if we have, say, a beef stew, something that's been cooked for longer is already kind of, in a sense, pre-digested by the food itself, if that makes sense. And so when this goes into our gut, it's easier for our body to work with this food rather than putting cold, raw food into what is essentially the cooker of our bodies, our stomach, and expecting our body to be able to process that. That is a surefire way to put out the digestive fire and to really not be supporting your body in terms of its metabolism. And interestingly enough, if you're eating cold raw foods like that, you may be gaining weight, even though you're like, well, I've been eating salads every day. In the middle of winter, I thought I would lose weight. You could actually be gaining weight. So I encourage you to try more warm cooked foods to really boost up that digestive fire. Now you can put some interesting spices that are kind of invigorating. So you might want to put things like paprika and cumin fennel, and choose your own adventure, cinnamon. Obviously, certain spices, or maybe not obviously, but certain spices are warmer than others. So again, if you're working with a practitioner, they can guide you as to which types of spices are good for your constitution, because diet is not a one-size-fits-all approach. And this is the thing that I really like about Chinese medicine as opposed to Western nutrition in terms of dietary therapy, is that it takes into account the individual. And when we look at something that the Chinese would term blood deficiency, which, circling back, is their way of describing what we would call anemia, there are about 7 to 10 patterns, which are different symptom pictures that can describe the foundational cause of different symptoms connected to anemia. So it's not as simple as just going, okay, you've got this thing, take this herb. But if you were to see a Chinese medicine practitioner like me, I could prescribe you something for your low iron levels from a Chinese medical herbal perspective. But first, we just have to get to the root of what is the dynamic underlying your body's difficulty with absorbing iron-containing foods, and then to figure out what pattern you have in terms of Chinese medicine thought, and then treat that pattern, which should rectify the associated symptoms and make you feel a lot more energetic and vital. Your hands and feet will become warmer. These are all symptoms of iron deficiency. And they tie closely in with the Chinese medicine concepts of qi and blood deficiency. So I hope that was helpful. Please share with me if you've had any successes in treating your iron deficiency, or if you've been struggling with it for a while. Feel free to reach out to me. You can book in a session with me at danielleashley.com.au, or ask me any questions you have, and I will do my best to answer them. Okay, bye.